lovely people, it's Nicole, and today I'm in a bit of a mood. I wasn't planning on filming a video today, but there was an announcement. So there's an interview released today with Entertainment Weekly in which David Yates, who is the director of the last few films in the Harry Potter series and now is the director of the Fantastic Beasts movies. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of him, but I also don't hate what he did with the last few movies, and I enjoyed Fantastic Beasts. In this interview, he was asked about how since we're going to see a young Albus Dumbledore in the upcoming Fantastic Beasts movie, are we going to see his sexuality actually represented? His response was, not explicitly, but I think all the fans are aware of that. So basically what he's saying is that he's just sort of going to continue J.K. Rowling's trend of not actually making him gay, but just saying that he's gay. J.K. Rowling has responded to people being upset about this by tweeting, being sent abuse about an interview that doesn't involve me about a screenplay which I wrote but which none of the angry people have read, which is part of a 5-movie series that's only one installment in, is obviously tons of fun, but you know what's even more fun? Insert a gif about muting people. I do want to acknowledge that yes, we are only going into movie 2 in a 5-movie franchise, and no one involved in the process has said that they're not going to explicitly show Dumbledore's sexuality later on in the franchise, but the way that they're talking about this, the way that they're treating this, and the way that Albus Dumbledore has been treated in the past by J.K. Rowling and people involved in the franchise, I take a lot of issue with. So I want to start this off by, first of all, just blanket statement, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore is not canonically gay. I also want to acknowledge that when it comes to Harry Potter, the fandom long ago established a hierarchy of canon. So at the top of that list, of course, is the books. What is said in the books is word of God. That is 100% canon. The movies are right behind that. If something in the movie contradicts something in the books, then the books are taken to be what is true. So after the movies comes things that are on Pottermore in the sort of official context, not just on their blog. Then comes interviews with J.K. Rowling. The problem with interviews with J.K. Rowling is that it is not uncommon for her to say something that completely contradicts something that she said in a previous interview or something that she's said in the books or on Pottermore, which I understand. People don't have perfect memories. It happens. The Harry Potter books are a very long series with a lot of complicated details, and I don't expect her to have memorized every single little detail. After interviews with J.K. Rowling, then we have interviews with the cast and crew of the movies, and then you get into things like fanon and headcanon. So basically, the whole story with Dumbledore is that back when the, I want to say, Half-Blood Prince movie was being made, in the script there was a just sort of throwaway line that Dumbledore was making about a previous love interest he'd had who was a woman. J.K. Rowling read this in the script and was like, oh wait, no, guys, Dumbledore's gay. And so she told the scriptwriters or the director, whoever, that Dumbledore was gay, and then she revealed that story in an interview later on, and as such, it has been taken as canon that Dumbledore is gay. But here's the problem. Dumbledore isn't gay in the books. And that's not to say that Dumbledore is off frolicking around with women in the books. What I mean by that is that Albus Dumbledore can't count as LGBTQIA plus representation because there's nothing in the books that references his sexuality. There hasn't been anything in the books, there hasn't been anything in the movies, there wasn't anything in Cursed Child, there wasn't anything on Pottermore, there isn't anything in any of the Fantastic Beasts movies so far. Kind of generally assumed that Dumbledore and Grindelwald had a thing, but considering the fact that this upcoming movie is supposed to focus on those two characters, it seems like now would be the perfect time to finally make that officially canon in the actual source material. A lot of commentary I've seen surrounding Dumbledore's sexuality that I kind of agree with is people saying that J.K. Rowling tends to get more brownie points than she deserves for representation, but when it comes down to it, she has no main characters who are people of color. She has some side characters who are people of color, like Cho Chang and the Patel twins and Kingsley Shacklebolt. But I mean, with people like Cho Chang, a lot of concern has been raised about her characterization being an Asian stereotype, links in the doobly-doo. So her representation when it comes to race hasn't been great, and her representation when it comes to queer issues has been pretty much non-existent in the actual material, which is what matters. Saying someone is queer in an interview is better than nothing, but it's pretty much the most lazy form of representation. It's saying you have representation without actually putting in the work to provide that representation. Hey, slightly future Nicole here. I originally had a section in here about how there's the argument that, oh, Dumbledore's sexuality wasn't included because it's not relevant to the story, and then, you know, there's all the jokes about how, like, oh, Dumbledore could have been riding around on roller skates, but it wasn't mentioned because it wasn't relevant to Harry's story. But upon further reflection, it kind of was relevant to Harry's story. I mean, they spend a really long time in Deathly Hallows talking about Dumbledore's relationship with Grindelwald, and it really would have only taken a single line to confirm that not only were Dumbledore and Grindelwald very emotionally attached to the fact that Dumbledore was in love with him, and that was a motivation for a lot of the things that he did and a lot of these sort of morally dubious actions that he let slide. So it comes down to the fact that not only was Dumbledore's sexuality actually, yes, kind of relevant to Harry's story, but there was a really good, easy place for J.K. Rowling to include it if she had wanted to. And with the upcoming Fantastic Beasts movies that show Albus as a young man, it would be so easy, like so easy to show that he's gay. I've also seen the argument that it wouldn't make sense to have Albus be openly gay in the Fantastic Beasts movies because of the time period taking place in the first half of the 20th century when being openly gay was not a common thing. But to that I say that a character doesn't have to be openly gay to the public inside their world in order to be openly gay to the audience. And again, this is another situation where they don't have to pause the movie and switch into a hilariously badly acted gay porn in order to show us that Dumbledore is gay. Honestly, I'd be satisfied with even just one line being like, oh yeah, this ex-boyfriend I had, or, oh yeah, he's cute. It literally just takes one line. It's so easy. So now, I think this leads us to the question of why? Why won't they make Dumbledore openly gay? And this, I don't really know the answer to. Obviously, I'm not inside of J.K. Rowling or David Yates' head. I can't say what their reasoning is. I will say that I'm not surprised, but yet still kind of disappointed. I know they're not directly related, but it makes sense in line with their decision to not only keep Johnny Depp, who is a known abuser, in the films, but to say that they are excited to have him in the films. At this point, it seems like they are so set in the idea that they can do no wrong that they refuse to listen to people's feedback. I mean, even if you look at J.K. Rowling's response to people expressing concern over this announcement, it seems like she doesn't really care how her readers who have, you know, stayed with her for so long, she doesn't really care what they think. She doesn't really care that a lot of young queer people were looking forward to having this representation, finally seeing themselves represented in a franchise that has meant a lot to us for a really long time. Honestly, I think that what the Harry Potter franchise has become betrays a lot of the morals and messages that the original books tried to put forward. I wish I had a upbeat, happy sort of plot twist to end this video on, but I don't. It's sad and it's disappointing, and I wish that we could finally be given the representation that has been sort of dangled in front of us but has never been within reach for this franchise for so long. Honestly, at this point it seems like they're just gonna keep dangling that carrot. The people involved in the franchise have made it clear over and over and over again that they don't really care what we think. They don't really care about the fact that they're hiring abusers. They don't really care about the fact that they're just screwing over the LGBTQIA plus community over and over and over again. They don't really care that they're not giving even kind of vaguely adequate representation to people of color, or people with disabilities, or people with mental illnesses. Yeah, kind of a bummer video. I'm sorry, but it's something that is important to me and that I wanted to talk about. And so I guess in order to lift this up a little bit, have something positive come out of it, let's talk about some media that actually does have good representation in the comments. Give me you guys' best suggestions for great, diverse fiction, whether that be TV shows, movies, books, comics, whatever. I'd love to hear about it. You know, what are some less common, less often talked about, really great pieces of representation that you think should be getting the attention that clearly Harry Potter does not deserve anymore? So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this because it's something that I have a lot of emotions about and I am still trying to figure out how to process those. So let's chat about it. I love you guys and I will see you later. Bye!